Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday with me, Ryan, aka Sifu Messiah. This is a weekly show which covers everything from the world of Star Citizen over the past week. Links can be found in the description for everything we discuss, so let's get on with it. This week, the Xi'An Scout goes on sale. We meet Gillian Andersons, or Scully as most of us know her, as Gary Oldman's daughter while she's in mocap. Plus, we see the Starfarer in the hangar. If you are still to sign up to the RSI website, please use my referral code as shown on screen or in the description, and you'll receive 5,000 United Earth credits which can be spent in the Voyager Direct store for your ships, your character, or whatever you choose. You don't have to spend anything to sign up. It's only once you pledge that I'll be granted an RP point, which will get me some little rewards in the future. So in 10 for the developers this week, we had producer Eric Karen Davis and CG supervisor Forrest Stefan. Two great chaps, very talented people. First question, what goes into concepting an alien race? You say humans are quite easy due to their knowledge already. We know the skin tone, the anatomy of how the character moves. With aliens, it's determined how humanoid is it to depend on how does it move. They take inspiration from animals and creatures and then sort of merge them together. But also the environments they will likely live in will determine what they look like their skin tone. If it's cold, it will have hair or fur. Also the appearance when light hits it, which I think is what they're working on the Vando at the moment. They say it's super fun, and the way they do it is they create the design first from before concepting, and then depending on the tech they're using, how far can they go, because sometimes it is quite tech limited. The mocap is difficult too, because obviously you need to use humans to do it, but it depends on how humanoid they are. So obviously if it's a very unusual creature that doesn't walk anything like a human, they need to figure out a way of making it look like it's moving realistically when all the humans move realistically. Very good question. But anyway, the next question is, with the improvements to the ship pipeline, how long will a new ship take to make, and how long do you imagine the Constellation variants taking in regards to the new ship pipeline? So he says that the first time you build something, it's your prototype. And after that, you begin learning and building out the pipeline. This pretty much shows the quality bar, the expected timescale, and pretty much how they can improve the process. Tech changes are important. When tech changes, everything else does, and we've obviously, throughout the year, tech is constantly being upgraded and changing. So they're trying to envelop that into the whole process. When we fly the ships, it gives them an idea on where the improvements are needed, and so they generally don't have to go back over the same paths as lessons have already been learnt in that area. They say, for example, like when the ship's cockpit bar, or whatever it is, the frame is right in the middle of the screen, and my example would be the Vanguard radar. They know this, so they know not to do that again because people will complain that they have no visibility. They want to keep things modular and reuse them. This is another way or technique that keeps it so much quicker and more streamlined. For example, a weapon rack is a separate asset, but they can add it where needed rather than having to create it every time for each ship. The Constellation variants, due to them being made by the same manufacturer, it won't take the 8 to 9 months it took the Constellation to be revamped, as it's all modular, all swappable. They can't say just how long to get the other variants, but it shouldn't be too long. Now the next question pretty much applies to the same thing, but is more involved in the Lancer. How long will it take for the ship variants to be completed in specifically the Freelancer, they say? And the answer is that they have specific cargo design requirements, and when cargo came online in-house, I don't think, obviously not to us, there's a big change that was needed to accommodate it, so that's why it took the Freelancer to be done, but they didn't actually explain how long it will take them. A lot quicker than we see when they created the ships previously, but there's still work to be done, so we will see. Hopefully they'll come out pretty soon. Next question. How hard is it to implement the new damage tech into old ships? And if you didn't know, the old damage tech was very much designed, each bit was designed, so instead of building a huge amount of debris pieces which can come off and snap off with the old tech, it's all procedural now, or, it's hit located. They say they build an inner framework which exposes the ship before it penetrates the whole ship, and this allows them to build frames which can then be fitted and reused. It used to require every bit of the ship to be designed, which would take forever, especially when you look at ships the size of the Starfarer, and obviously the Idris and so forth. It is now shader driven, so it's all reusable and much, much quicker, which again, very, very intelligent way of doing it. Streamlines the whole process. Next question. What is involved in getting an NPC towards the backers? Is it like a ship with concept, backstory, grey box, white box, etc, etc? And how long does each character generally take? So they say it's pretty much set in stone now. They don't build the full characters like in a traditional game. They build clothing, accessories, and then they have the scanned heads and the base bodies. Designers then add the clothing to the NPCs and use the same system as players will when we're designing ourselves. They have a dynamic wear system as well, if you didn't know, where you can make clothes feel newer or older, and this will happen if you buy a certain item of clothing. Over time it will degrade and look worn, and you will either have to replace it or forever look like a scruffy git. For the crime-style NPCs, because this was specific to the question that was actually asked, they will look at the wardrobe which would represent that particular style and add them. So darker characters will likely have more worn clothing, and you'll be given an impression that they may be a little dodgy. But that's not to say that all criminals will have dirty, ragged clothing. Some will blend in and look like the average Joe, and some of them will be quite smart and dressed up, which is good, because it's not stereotypical. Clothing is what will give the impression rather than creating the character for that environment. So they're creating the clothing and the system to pick those clothes, which is what gets the NPCs to us. So that's pretty much what holds up anything. It just needs to be done once as well, so that's a big timescale reducer. Each clothing accessory takes about a week, and it is quite similar to the ship pipeline. So you have your backstory to the item, the concepts for it, the white box, the grey box, and then it's the polish last. So very, very cool, and I'm so excited to get persistence, where we can start buying our own clothing and not everyone's just going to be running around in the same items of clothes. Very, very exciting. Next question, how is the art pipeline different to the minor NPC characters compared to the more important ones? Will NPCs we see in the bazaars and around town get real individual attention, or be more just stock characters? So they say that the scanned heads are all in tiers. You have Gary Oldman, Hamill, they're all tier 0 characters. They get the most attention. They don't use stock characters, they all have their own attention. So tier 0 has obviously higher polys, more bones, more detail to them. And then tier 1, their quality drops a slight bit. The lowest tier, they said, is actually really high quality still. You won't really see much of a difference, it's just more to make the tier 0s stand out more. They did scan 120 heads, which is actually quite a lot, and they need to figure out how to customize them in different ways and keep them unique. So each person should look different. I mean, if you take, for example, 120, times that by 120 and so forth, and you've got so many different heads that you can choose from. Everyone will look unique in their own selves. Next question, can we expect style guides for clothing? How many brands will there be for release? Great question. So they say they do have style guides for clothing manufacturers. Technically they have 19 planetary locations for styles in clothing, and then you've got like subcategories. So your sort of planetary styles are things like Terra, Nyx. They all have their own unique style. And then the subcategories are like blue collar, white collar, or frontier. There are more, that's just a selection of 3. And then they have specific clothing manufacturers with backstories. So eventually you'll be playing the game and you'll prefer a certain style of manufacturer, just like you do in the real world. People shop at certain stores because they like their clothing. The same will happen in the verse. Currently they say they have 36 clothing manufacturers, which is a huge amount already. They have got all the logos made for them. We will see them soon. I cannot wait. I'm more excited about styling my character than I am about styling myself. Anyway, next question. How many different character customization options do you envision? Both physical appearance, so hair, eyes, face and body, etc., and clothing as well. Will males and females have about the same amount? So they say that there will be the same amount for both males and females. There's no preference there. Obviously, with physical appearance, eye shape, hair, face, body, all sorts of things will be changeable. They currently have multiple hairstyles, which is good, and they actually have a shader to change the eye colour dynamically. It is currently in the R&D phase, but it'll be coming along, and they haven't got anything to show us yet, but we will see it soon. Second to last question, what happened to the Retaliator commercial? It was supposed to be finished months ago. So they say that the commercials were designed to show us what they are currently working on. The method on revealing current work has shifted as they reveal them in more ways, like at events, live streams, so on and so forth, so they felt they didn't need one for the Retaliator as it was shown in the multi-crew demo video. Things changed, they say, and they're so heavily invested now in Squadron 42 that many of the talented people who would work on the commercial are pretty much concentrating on the Squadron 42 visuals, so I would much prefer them to get that finished than get a commercial finished. But I'm sure that when the ships come into the verse, they will have their own real commercial to show us just where they are, because the old Constellation commercials no longer, and the Freelancer no longer reflect the actual ship themselves, because they've all been revamped and so on and so forth. But anyway, last question. How is it going with the non-humans in the game? They haven't heard anything about the Vanduul or animals or other species for a while. So they say they're always working on alongside the characters. The Vanduul is in the final stages. They've got its moves, its looks, its lore all figured out. They're just working on the skin. They don't want to tell us too much about all these things because they would rather keep them under wraps, and I completely agree. It will add more fear to the Vanduul. Plus, it'll add more fear to the other species. If we come across a species we don't know what it is, it will just give us that sort of uncertainty. Anyway, that was 10 for the developers. Very, very good questions. Very excited. Quite a long episode for that one though, but tell me your thoughts. What are you excited for? What are you not excited for? So, on to Around the Verse, episode 2.15. Sandy and Ben are back together after a long month. They say that many team members from other studios have converged to the LA office to discuss what's planned for 2016. Also, the 3D Artist magazine has the Star Citizen cover story showing how Gurmak Bassin made the Mustang Omega shine. Very, very cool. Apparently that's available widely in the UK and maybe select stores in the US. But straight on to news from Around the Verse, starting with the LACIG office. So work is being done on the Constellation frame rate issues in Crusader. They think they know what it is, and it should be addressed soon. Also, they're working on increasing the size of the missile hitboxes, so it should be easier to take missiles down by shooting them. They have started work on the ESP Prowler, which is exciting, and more exciting, the tech design is being done for the 890 jump. Very, very exciting for that one. Austin CIG, they say that persistence is well underway. They are just having to revamp a portion of the tech to help it out. They're hoping to get 2.2 out pretty soon, and then you'll have 2.3, 2.4, and then eventually 3.0, which will be amazing. They're looking to revamp the launcher as well. It is almost from scratch, they say, just to make it a little more robust. And he mentions that January is very much the planning month while they discuss what needs to be done for 2016. So, Foundry 42 in the UK, they are working on characters, iterating on the Gillian Andersons character, which we have seen her little video up this week. The LA script writers are in the UK office also. They are drilling into the Squadron 42 levels, making sure that everything works together and coincides with the lore, etc. The object container code is being done as well, and this will enable them to handle lots of things in the verse all at one time, which is obviously very important. Also, talks on how to fly capital ships is underway, and Chris Roberts, or the BBC, did a piece on Chris Roberts. I will have a look, see if I can find a link, but so far I've not managed to. But anyway, we'll try. So Foundry 42 in Frankfurt, they've got some new hires. They're still progressing on the procedural planet side stuff, finishing last minute FPS animations. AI is still being pushed. They're working on interdiction, which is pulling ships out of quantum travel or quantum drive and not letting them or preventing them from entering quantum drive. They're also looking into how to take the ship's interior piping system, which is how power is routed throughout the ships, and apply them to environments. So after that, Jared sat down with a chap called Clive Johnson, who is the senior network programmer from the UK. He is quite important for making the game client and server talk to each other, and he's also the first port of call if anything goes wrong with the build. The game servers are currently running the simulation, which everyone is taking part in. Client servers are in the Google Cloud rather than in a back room like traditional games. And the good thing about this, aside from the cost obviously, is that the cloud is scalable on demand, so if they need to suddenly spark up a few new servers, they can do that. If they need to close a few servers if people aren't on, they can do that also really, really quickly. Very important part of the whole thing. From there, we had a behind the scenes with the UK audio team. Now, I didn't take any notes on this, but they did show us how they created the different sounds in Crusader. So if you are interested, follow the links and then follow the timescales. Most valuable post goes to two people. I think it was Star Citizen's Third, apparently, and Argon for their plugins for the RoCat Power Grid app, which, if you don't know, it allows you to use your tablets to take control of your ship systems. Very, very cool. I'll show a little image or a little video of it now. And the Star Citizens plugin allows you to use your phone for the same thing, which is really, really cool. So you can buy a couple of 30 quid tablets. Doesn't have to be anything special, and then just connect them with RoCat. Very, very cool. Do check it out. But the art sneak peek, which is most exciting, is the Starfarer in grey box phase in the hangar, and this thing is huge. I wish they'd put a little figure down there just to show the scale of a person, but you can see the cockpit, you can see the size of the seats. That is the size of a person. Massive. Anyway, that was Around the Verse. Do tell me your thoughts. Don't forget to thumbs up if you're hyped for the Starfarer. So, in honour of Gillian Andersons' return as Agent Scully on the X-Files, big shout out to the X-Files, the Xi'An Ka-2 is available now for purchase. The Ka-2 is the light attack craft from the Xi'An military. The Ka-2 is the human version as more of a dedicated scout explorer. It doesn't have traditional main thrusters, it has more of an array of maneuvering thrusters, which allows for incredible agility. It's still in concept, so it won't appear in your hangar right away, but it is very close to being finished. It's currently still in development, but it's going to be one of the next ships in the alpha. It is $150. It looks incredible. far different from anything we've seen in the human side of things. Do pick one up if you are interested. Also this week we had a new Plain Truth, which I have not read yet unfortunately. Bug Smashers episode 18 is available, so do check the link in the description to watch that. We were shown some work in progress images of the Crucible. If you are an RSI subscriber you will have seen them already, but they are very, very interesting, definitely worth checking out. We met our third character in Squadron 42. This week it was Gillian Andersons, who is portraying Gary Oldman's daughter. Do check the link to watch her video. You see her in doing some of the mocap. An incredible actress, much loved from our community for her work in The X-Files, which is coming back in February. And finally, the Star Citizen Alpha 2.1.1 is now available to all on the live service. So jump in, check it out, get into someone else's ship and have some fun. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching and thank you to our subscribers, plus a massive thank you to our patrons as you make this possible. If you like what we do and want to help us make it better, follow the link in the description to our Patreon page to learn more.